Okay. Test, test. Can anyone hear me? Default recording device, perhaps? Hello, test, test. Okay. Test, test. Can anyone hear me? Yay, I fixed it. Okay, cool. Okay, and I'm hearing, so I have my own stream up on another screen so I can hear myself talking.
Hello, test, test.
Because that's how I'm able to chat back with chat or something, but I don't know if there's another way to properly chat through OBS.
Test, test. Can anyone hear me?
Yay, I fixed it. Okay, cool. Okay, and I'm hearing, so I have my own stream up on another screen so I can hear myself talking.
Hello, test, test.
Because that's how I'm able to chat back with chat or something, but I don't know if there's another way to properly chat through OBS.
Test, test. Can anyone hear me?
Yay, I fixed it. Okay, cool. Okay, and I'm hearing, so I have my own stream up on another screen so I can hear myself talking.
Hello, test, test.
Because that's how I'm able to chat back with chat or something. Yeah, so if you just mute yourself, God, that's really a messed up thing. I don't know why the built-in OBS chat doesn't have a way to do it. Has a chat installed in the program? Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll have to take a look at slobs, quote unquote, as you guys refer to it. As long as it's also free, I don't know. I'll do that some other time, I guess. Anyway, I want to get back to actually figuring out this bug. Well, hopefully you shouldn't be hearing my other voice anyway. It's ramping, looping. Oh gosh. I didn't think you guys would be able to hear it too, because the audio is just in my headset, I thought. Anyway. Well. I also apologize if anyone suddenly has ear-splitting dogs barking in the background, because I have many dogs, and when they bark, things can get loud very quickly. So just a fair warning. Okay, let's see. Yeah, by the way, Robbie, I fixed it by, what was it? I mean, so I had to add a dedicated audio input source to the channel because I had a webcam and a screen that was in the sources, and then I just added another audio input source that I made refer to my mic on my headset, and that's what got it working. So I assume it's just not using the mic that's on the webcam. But okay. So yeah, that's really interesting though, that in this video they were able to create a resource and save it as a file, but doing so removed the reference to the resource that was present on the property, and then they couldn't drag the resource over anymore. That's really bizarre. So I can save lid resources just fine by code. Oh, yes, sorry about that. Object like no other. So the core issue is that, let's see if I can bring up my Visual Studio and see if I can run Godot while this compiles and builds and everything. I don't know, maybe it might take a bit, but so not tried with editor though, yeah. So the main issue is that if you have a resource, right? So you can write a script and it'll have a resource that you can you can export resources in the script, like they have in examples here. Boom, right? So this is, I'm extending the resource type that's built into the engine, and I'm giving it a custom type name. And when you give it a custom type name, this was introduced in Godot 3.1, then the engine essentially registers this name and binds it to the file path for the resource. And so now anything can refer to the type name that you've given it, and it'll kind of just indirectly fetch the script by its location through the alias of whatever name you gave it. And that's internally how the engine deals with it. And then when it comes to resources, this all works great in the engine code, but none of the infrastructure of the engine was prepared to handle scripts being used in the serialized information about properties. So because all these properties that you might see, right, the @export and var, whatever, so all these different properties have various pieces of metadata associated with them that tells the engine information about that property beyond just its data type. So like, oh, this is an enum value that's allowed to have a certain number of different states, and those states might be explicitly listed in the metadata. And that's what will inform the inspector right here that, oh, there's, I have an enum, and if I click on this, it'll have a drop down of the various possible states rather than just giving me an integer that I can, set a value on, because an enumeration is an integer that has a number of fixed values that it's allowed to have, and each of those values has like a name and an identifier that, or a symbol that labels it. And so that's the kind of thing that is metadata provided by various languages to the engine or to the inspector and anything else that might interact with it. Looks like my Godot engine booted up. So the issue is that one of these special metadata things that you can attach to a property is a property type, or property hint resource type. And so you can specify that the property is an object that is serializable, that is a resource, and then it gives you what the type of that object is. And that's then saved into the file along with all the resource data. That way, when the engine reads the file back in, even if it's just a .tres or .res file, and it doesn't actually know what the type of the data is, there will be an embedded bit of text at the front portion of the file that says, hey, this is what the data type of this thing is. Now try to create that object in memory and deserialize all the properties from the resource file into this object so that it's, so that you're loading right from the memory into your RAM, right, your in-memory stuff. But the problem is that the engine was only engineered to account for that with local, like, built-in engine types. Let's see, I misunderstood, by the way. That is, exporting meant that saving the resource, since title says exportable resources, writing it out to file. Well, so exportable simply means that you are capable of perceiving the property through the inspector. That's what export actually means. There's serializable, which is you can save it to a file, and deserialize is loading from the file. But export is I'm exposing this data to the inspector so that the inspector is able to actually perceive the information. So that's actually where the big problem comes in, because Godot 3.1 added this ability to say, hey, I've got a class name for player stats, whatever, but then if you put player stats in this text and it tries to read in the player text or the player stats and figure out like, oh, okay, what object do I make? The core engine has never heard of player stats and has no idea what it is, and it's not any of the built-in types. And like the entire code infrastructure for the rest of the engine just has no idea how to handle this concept. And so the big pull request stuff that I'm doing is trying to fix all that piece by piece and be like, hey, this is the main pull request that's going to have a ton of child pull requests that are detailing like make this change, make this change, make that change, and then all of them together will essentially teach the engine how to handle using scripted global types or custom named types, whatever you want to call them. I think it's global script classes is kind of how they're referred to as. So you might say global classes or script classes. That's the name. So if you don't let editor interfere any of that serialization and parsing, it should work in code side. Yeah, as far as code is concerned, the code works just fine. You can use it in code with no problem. And in fact, you can export the properties even if they are custom resources, as long as you're not exporting it as a custom resource. So if you just say, hey, I have a resource, and you don't detail any information about the resource, then it'll work. And it will actually show all of the properties on the resource, because that's just what the inspector does. It iterates over all the properties and generates little editors for them. But because you're exporting it as a basic resource, then when you're trying to say, hey, I want to create an inline instance of this object, it gives you like a massive list of all possible resources in the engine, because you're exporting a basic resource. Or if you want to click and drag an existing resource file onto the property, it just lets you drop any resource in there because it's a basic resource export. And that's what I'm trying to fix, because if you properly export a custom resource or a user-defined resource, then it should restrict you to only creating instances of whatever the custom type is, like so just the player stats class, that kind of stuff. So that's the issue that we are trying to solve. And I have a kind of work in progress pull request here where I added the ability for GDScript, this programming language, to export the custom resource types, and it's not working all the time. I'm using resource as runtime save point of data. Yeah, that's totally fine. You have no issues doing that, and in fact, it's actually very common for people to do that. The main issue is that if you can have a workflow that just lets you use the GUI to just create arbitrary resources and edit them and like mess around with them, it makes the workflow so much smoother, and it's a lot easier to handle a lot more complex tasks and stuff. So it's pretty transformative if you could get it to work. And back in the day I had it working, but it was like a really bad implementation that was hugely complex and did a lot of unnecessary things, and the core devs just didn't really like that, which I understand, because back when I first wrote it, I was quite inexperienced and just did a lot of stuff I didn't need to be doing. So now, having actually spent like 5 years as a professional web developer, I have a bit more understanding of like why they wouldn't want someone to do that stuff. Yes, I know. My dog is like, give me attention. Okay, let's see. So let's actually check out Godot. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Okay, so Godot Engine. So I had my demo here where I had a script, or I'm exporting a terrain, and I'm specifying that it is the terrain data type. And then I have the terrain base class with name, movement, cost, and defense bonus. And it extends resource, looking for it to be supported custom. Yeah, me too. Can clunky coding slow processes down? In different ways depending on what you mean by clunky. I mean, there's just so many things. Like, I mean, you can, if something is badly implemented, that could be that it's difficult to make changes without breaking things. That would be something related to coupling, is what it's referred to as. So you have like tight coupling and loose coupling. And loose coupling is something where it's, things aren't very directly tied together, so it's really easy to swap out pieces of it without breaking a lot of things. So that's one example. Another form of clunky coding would be just really inefficient code that doesn't handle, the algorithm effectively, so that it does a lot of unnecessary work when it doesn't need to be doing so. Or maybe something that isn't handling memory properly, so it leaks a ton of memory, which then results in your application, using up memory on your computer when it doesn't need to be, and then somehow it just causes a giant crash because over time it just the amount of RAM on your machine just gets used more and more and more. There are a lot of Google Chrome extensions that are kind of infamous for doing that kind of thing, where people are like, oh man, Chrome just makes you bog down all your performance, and I'm like, actually Chrome's really good, it's the extensions that people install, and those aren't implemented well, so they leak a ton of memory, and then you just have a whole bunch of memory being used. And there's a lot of different ways that clunky coding can mess up stuff. There's many different manifestations of quote-unquote clunky coding. Let's see. So terrain, which has these properties, and then I had natural resource, some other properties, and then urban terrain and wild terrain, which has the industry. Yeah, industry was another thing, but this one has an array of strings. And then urban terrain has an industry, and wild terrain has natural resources, which then has an array of another custom resource. And then we're testing out inheritance between urban terrain and wild terrain, since the terrain property can accommodate both of those, and that is present on the tile 2D. So this terrain property can be either or, urban terrain or wild terrain. I've always just turned off Chrome when I do things because of that rumor. Oh yeah. Let's see. Okay, so if I run this, or actually I don't even need to run it. That's the whole point. Okay. Tile 2D, right? I have urban terrain here, and they said that they created a property. All right, so let's try this. We're gonna clear this, save the scene, and then what is it exactly? They created an inline instance. So I have new urban terrain, and I'm just gonna leave industry empty. Test, increment these a bit, and then save the scene, and then save the resource. And we'll have a test urban 1.tres. Let's make a dedicated folder for these, like, kind of test res stuff. I already have a test industry, but whatever. Save. Because I had like a demoable thing and I don't want to necessarily mess it up too much. Test urban 1.tres. Okay. Wait, yeah, so I saved it to a file, and it has the file name here, and there's the data. And the file didn't go away. Okay. And if I clear this, it goes away. Save. And if I click and drag this, I hit an exception. Oh no, a breakpoint, which I don't care about right now. So continue, and it worked. So it still loaded it. It has test 2.3. Yep, everything loaded up properly. So what did they do to get it done wrong? Let's take it from the top. In here. Okay, so script extends node with custom var resource A, custom resource A, custom resource B. Okay, it should default to null, which is the same thing I have, yes. Yep, equal to null. I don't know if that matters. It shouldn't. We can try that though. So if I take that out and then go back here, clear, save the scene, we'll delete this. Okay, and now let's just do exactly what they're doing at export var custom resource A. Custom resource A has all these properties, right? Okay, so terrain, I guess I'll just do that. Terrain, the name doesn't matter, but I do need to change the properties on it to accommodate the extra things. They have an integer, a decimal, a float. So I have a string, an integer, I need a decimal. Defense bonus, we'll just make this a decimal, 0.0. And then Boolean, at export var. They're not initializing these explicitly either. I wonder if that matters. I can try that too. So if I just say string, and then this is integer, or int, and then this is float. Actually pog. Well, that was back when I was actually making interesting videos and, you know, had the time to do that. Because I actually spent a lot of time making that stuff. I might be able to get back into that in August because I have 2 weeks of contiguous vacation that I will have. Awesome. And I'll actually be able to probably revisit the whole making GDScript to C++ video stuff then. I want to make sure that I actually have this, you know, these pull requests in good shape though before I do any work on that. So, but provided I get these pull requests in good order, then yeah, I might have some time to work on that. When I was actually doing like semi-consistent releases every like couple weeks, I mean, if you're doing like tech tutorial-esque stuff, yeah, you can get a lot of people jumping on your channel pretty quickly. Literally have more views than half of mine now. And you did this as a complete side hobby. Yeah, like not even like extremely small side hobby. There's some funky things happening related with resources that if you don't declare export var with initial value, you can't change it from editor unless you restart the editor. Oh, what? Since alpha 11. Okay. Related with resources. If you don't declare export var with initial value, you can't change it from editor. Huh. From being monetized, I don't really care too much about that, but I just don't make enough stuff to really, I mean, like, the amount of money you would get is minimal anyway compared to my actual job. Can't change it from editor unless you restart the editor. Since alpha 11, that's nuts. Don't declare export var. Is that object, is that only with GDScript, or do you know if that's also with other things too? Okay. So a boolean will say, is it terrain? Like, I don't know. Is, stop flexing. Is something, what? I don't know, just. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna have some random thing, bool, and then export. What did they have again? Okay, and they have an array. Some sort of array. I mean, I guess you could just make it an array of anything, so export var. Don't know if it's reproducible yet, but I have. It's only for resource. Haven't seen it for GDScripts. You have not seen it for GDScript? Like you've only used C# and C# has suffered from it? Something like that? And then I guess just like extra data as an array. That's a really stupid thing, but I mean, I guess it would kind of make sense if there were an issue with uninitialized properties somehow triggering an error that then terminated a process early, and if doing so then caused the like if the termination of the process, like whatever the function was, and if it exited early, if that prevented it from properly like resetting the value that the inspector has set for that editor thing. No, base class is GDScript resource type, then custom resource type. Oh, yeah. Okay, Laredo, out from under the desk, go. Yeah, I don't know, you guys probably haven't seen. Come on, there you go. So here's my dog. His name is Laredo, and he is in the office with me all the time. Just another little dog flex there. There you go. My bad, Will. My bad. Wait, what? Oh. I just saw your Discord stuff. Nice. Come back, little one. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. Okay. I gotta get some programming done, huh? I only have a limited amount of free time. This is the weekend. Yeah. He loves getting his ears rubbed and stuff. Unfortunately, this guy doesn't really do well with other dogs sometimes, and he'll get like overly protective or something, or just, you know, hey, that's my toy or my treat or whatever, and he just starts attacking our other dogs, unfortunately. So he has to be kept separate, and he doesn't really like that much, but yeah. I mean, there are a couple of other dogs he kind of gets along with, but we basically just have to monitor him really closely. So, all right, Laredo. I gotta go. Come on, up here. Up here. Let's go. Nope. Up on the bed. Over here. Come on. He's just ignoring me. Whatever. Alrighty. Let's see. So export var extra data array. Okay. So right, if you have an uninitialized property, so if I save this and try this out again, right? That's the implication. I reset it, clear, create a new inline thing, name. Oh, interesting. That should already be a bug. If you have it shouldn't have null as the text just because it's uninitialized. That's silly. It should actually be like, hey, I have an empty string. That's stupid. Make this 3.4, I guess, and then 3.14, right? Let's go with pi. Go 5 is awesome. Extra data will add an extra property of type Boolean and check it. And if I save this, then I can minimize and expand it. If I click on this, does it reload? Yep, still has all the data. If I close this file, did it freeze? It's not closing it? What is going on? X? There we go, okay. Reopen, demo scene. Click here again. Data's all still there, so it deserialized properly. Okay, and now we'll save as test urban1 again in the test res folder, save. And again, I have my named file here. It saved it properly. Expand, collapse and expand. Can clear. Okay. Take this, drag it over. It's detecting it. It sees it. Everything's working. I don't know. That even has like all the same diversity of properties that were present. And I used a similar syntax without any initialized values on urban terrain, or no, tile 2D terrain. Yeah, this is the terrain. Here we go. String, int, float, bool, array. Is it because there's at least one property that is initialized, maybe? So if I make that not initialized, does that break it? Let's try this one more time. Okay, so I'm gonna clear, gonna delete the file, remove, save, create another instance of urban terrain, test 5, 3.14 is awesome, add a Boolean, check it, save, click away, close the file, reopen it, click on object, all the data is there exactly as I left it, save as test urban1, or _1, I think I did. Save. Still saved over the file. Okay, so I can't seem to do that. He seems so sweet. Nice. Maybe he's alpha, but you still need to be in a pack to be in. Actually, there's a lot of the whole like alpha dog stuff was completely disproven, and the guy who actually perpetuated the theory was like, "Oh crap, what have I done?" And he like renounced his own theory and tried to, you know, publish the information, but it's already complete like pop culture and ingrained. So a lot of people think that it's a thing, even though it's not. So there's, I don't even know all the details. My wife is the expert on the matter, who's been like telling me stuff, but that's fun stuff. So, let's see. That's it. It's what happens. I can't delete the null text unless I restart. Oh wait, that's what you meant? Oh, I see. Okay. Can't delete the null text unless you restart. I mean, that's just a bug where it's not deserializing the null string properly, right? Because so it tries to get what the value is, and the value is null, but when it's the variant has, you know, deserialized as a null, and when it tries to convert the variant into a string, for whatever reason, the null is being converted into text rather than actually saying no, it's null as in like 0, like no text. You know, that's what the error is. Because if you look at all the other properties we're deserializing properly, even though they were different data types, right? So the int and the float and all that stuff. It wasn't present in alpha 10. Oh, I see. So it was a regression. Okay, yeah. I still can't seem to reproduce the problem that they were having, though. Right? So this person... Where's my web browser? Okay, yeah. So this person, Lufog, commented yesterday. Used binary from actions. What are they doing? I wonder if this is something that's just not in my master build yet, and if there's a regression in a more recent release that causes this to happen, and I'm just not seeing it because I haven't rebased my code yet, perhaps. 1, 0, 1. Ask for the project. The project? What project? Yeah, the project that I am working in is right here. Dan. Demo inspector resources. So if you have, you know, if you just take this branch gdres all 4.0 on my GitHub repository, nations_dev/Godot, then it has all the PRs put together, and you can then open up this demo project and test it out. That's what I'm using. So other people who are, you know, commenting that this stuff is happening. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I completely missed Vikram. My bad. Is there any way to change resources or scenes path in scripts automatically? Change resources or scenes path in scripts automatically? No. So I mean, yes and no, but also basically no. So as far as Godot Engine is concerned, the contents of a script are a black box. There's a script interface in the core of the engine that details like what information a script can provide about it. But as far as its contents go, the engine just is like, no, you never touch the contents of a scripting language. It's only the module that implements the scripting language that actually messes with it. And there's so in order to have a language update various path references that might be hard-coded into the script itself, the only way to have that be a thing would be to add some functionality to the script interface that allows you to say, hey, here is a path to a resource. I would like to change it to this path. And then you'd have to delegate the request of handling that update to the scripting language. And then the scripting language implementation would have to go in and actually figure out how it plans to actually do any of that. So you'd have to be like, oh, what is the file, and where it'd have to, I don't know, use like regex or something to look for the text inside of the file, and identify where the file path is in the text, and then like do a replace on it or something. It's kind of the only thing I could really imagine. But so basically, the editor is not responsible for modifying the contents of text inside of a script outside of the like dedicated text editor kind of thing. And even then, the script editor wouldn't want to do something that's specific to GDScript. It would likewise want to delegate the action to the scripting language that knows how to responsibly modify the contents of their own scripting files. GDScript is very strict on absolute path constants, I think. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to have. I mean, you can have a property that's not, a file path, or you can have a file path that's in a property instead of a constant. But, and in fact, that's the only way to export a file path. So that's like the other way to do it is you define a property that you export, and that's a string, and then there's an export hint you can provide where you say, oh, this is a global file path or a local file path. And then the editor will actually give you like autocomplete, and like if you click on it, it'll create a little file dialog and that kind of stuff. But if you're talking about I've hard coded a string that's a file path inside of my program, and I want that text to be updated by the engine when the file moves, you can't do that. You have to say this is some file path that I don't know, and I'm going to rely on whatever is provided for this path, and then you'd have to have the editor assign that path value. Or alternatively, you do that, and then in addition to doing that, have a default value that is some hard-coded path. That's kind of the best approach, or best approximation that you could get. If you have ideas for ways to improve that, you are welcome to open a Godot proposal for how to do it. Like the thing I mentioned, where you could potentially like teach scripting languages to update file path references or something inside of their contents. I don't know how well that would go over with developers. I don't know, maybe they would go for that. But if you put together a good proposal with good justifications, and if they don't think it would be problematic to the implementation of the various languages, then yeah, maybe. Or alternatively, maybe they'll think up of another solution that would be even better at solving that problem, right? Because that's a lot of what it is you open one proposal after another for potentially solving a given issue, a given problem, but then it's not necessarily going to be the only proposal that's valid. Like I think I had this concept of being able to tie together a script and a scene and getting them to kind of have a one-to-one relationship in some way, or making it so that you can ensure that a given script is only used in one scene, right? So you can have this kind of pure, single, uniform interpretation of them. And there were very many different ways that you could potentially implement that. And I had I think 3 different proposals that I put forward, and one of them is kind of the best one and really has a lot of promise, but it's kind of still up to debate on whether it should actually be included. Lots of thanks for your answer. You're really great and nice. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm always happy to answer people's questions wherever I can. I mean, I'm not exactly a super skilled Godot developer as far as like core devs go, quote unquote. And I don't really consider myself to be like I'm a core dev, but also not a core dev, because I'm a core dev in the sense that I've been around a while and they know me and have some semblance of trust for my input on things. But based on my history, my development history, they don't really, they shouldn't really trust me very much. I don't think Godot needs that type of dynamic IO. Oh yeah. So yeah, my PR history is not that great, and that's basically because I started out working with Godot when I was like a brand new developer, essentially. I had just got out of college and had like a year of development experience, maybe, before I actually started working with Godot on stuff, and I was very inexperienced and still trying to tinker around with the internals and stuff, and that bought me a lot of kind of, you don't really know how best to handle this stuff, do you? I mean, they didn't say that, but I could basically tell that there was like, it's not the best idea. Maybe we shouldn't do things that. They were very nice about it. They were kind of, giving recommendations for how to get better or how to reword my proposals or whatever, It's like, I don't think this is the best direction, but I do think this is, a good idea kind of thing. Maybe try this a different way that's not as intense, modifying like all kinds of things in the core of the engine. Still, you can implement your own dependency and I/O handlers in GDScript. Yeah. Yeah. The way you tend to do that in Godot, because all the objects or all the classes have to have null constructors or empty constructors, right? A default empty constructor. And so a lot of initialization essentially needs to be done through the export related stuff, which makes it a little complicated. Respectable Godot contribution is hard. Oh yeah. I mean, it is tough to have actually a good proposal and a good, contribution. Like, people overestimate how tough it is, because open source in general is awesome, and it's really nice that you can just kind of go in and fix stuff and do stuff. And I have had a few instances of that happening, but a lot of the times, like, if you're trying to make some substantial changes to software that like have big implications, it's tough to get people on board, and because you have to debate all the niceties of, hey, should this actually be done? Is this the best way to do it? How could this be improved? Or, then you have all the different reviews of actual coding it and doing the implementation properly. Okay, let's focus back on this task. Okay, so best way to test to see if it's a versioning issue is to actually update the code. All right, so making sure that I'm on the right thing. This is my actual Godot instance, right? Yeah, okay. So then let's go to Godot. I'll stop execution. We will bring up a console. Source goes Godot editor. Git status branch gdres 4.0. Let's do a backup gdres all 4.0 backup, right? Or I guess I'll do v2 backup. Okay. All right. Now fetch upstream master. And if this is what breaks it, then I'll know that someone actually did some stuff to mess things up. Git no, actually, let's check out master. Close to be merged, you think? I mean, it theoretically was until everyone was like, this doesn't work. I do need to get the C# version of it working, though. That's another like major component, so I want to make sure that I have C# going too. And then after that, I might end up trying to get the Visual Script stuff, or at least communicating with Visual Script team members to see if they, have ideas of how to do it. I don't really know a lot about, or I don't deal a lot with Visual Script aside from the little bit that I did in the past, and I heard rumors. I don't actually know if that's actually happening, if like Visual Script was essentially going to be moved to a separate thing that you would install separately. I don't know if that's the case. It would have been an extension, I guess, if they did that. But yeah, I have no idea. So, but it's separate merge. I don't quite know what you mean. What close to be? I mean, like it's in a state where you could theoretically merge it and it could work. Theoretically, like in the little tests that I've done. Again, I don't really have a lot of time to work on this, so I haven't really been able to do a lot of thorough testing. Like, for example, I haven't even actually exported a game that uses this, so it could completely not work and only be a thing that's like functional in the editor for some reason, you know? Like, I also need to try the remote inspector and see if the remote inspector can do it properly. But I also know that the remote inspector in 4.0 already has some other weird bugs, like all of the properties are like displayed twice or something weird like that. So, hope it is C# stuff and scripting part, yeah. Okay. Checkout master, get reset hard up, reset hard upstream / master. Get checkout gdres all 4.0, get rebase this master. Hey, no conflicts, awesome. Alright, let's try and build it. Oh. And I'm out of coffee. Hopefully, this will actually get some stuff going. But I am afraid that it's going to end up breaking. Because then it's going to be like, oh, well, someone merged some code that caused your thing to break. Let's see if you can figure it out. It's basically what's going to happen. And my dog, Kuma, is barking outside a whole bunch, and I can hear him, and he needs to shut up before he bothers the neighbors. But alas, there are squirrels that must be chased. Aw, 2 people liking my video. Thanks. Aw, shucks. I don't know how experienced people are with actually building Godot, but it's not quite as difficult as a lot of people would be led to believe, so it's actually really cool to do. I remember when I was still relatively inexperienced with coding. I was graduating college, so I had done like a few years of like some simple programming stuff, but didn't have like actual development experience, like making things for, you know, an actual project that I'm publishing of some sort. And I was just it was like one of the first like moments where I actually, you know, built some code, and then boom, I had a GUI application running on my computer that was like the same thing I could install and use from the internet, but it was just running locally on my machine, and I could see all the code like on my computer, and I could like step through it, you know, and actually see it processing and stuff. It's just really cool. When you the first time you do that, it's like mind expanding moment. What if Godot put scenes folder and script folder from the beginning, so it always stays at one place, so no need to define path later, because I always messed up path while organizing scenes. Okay, explain that why you need to retract this since the person fixed it by deleting .godot directory. They fixed a different issue by deleting the Godot directory, and then there was a different thing that the video that was on their thing, they didn't have that video before. Like they edited their comment to make that show up, which is why I knew it was a separate thing. They originally had a comment that was like, oh, I had this other issue that matches what someone above was experiencing, but then I deleted my .godot directory and it fixed it. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So the thing that was referenced in images above is not really applicable. Good to know. Like they could just delete their .godot folder and the stuff would be not applicable. Yeah, these images right here, right? So if the person had deleted their .godot folder, then it would have regenerated and everything would work properly, supposedly. I don't know. But then, you know, then they edited it to, you know, indicate that. And then this image is like a new thing. They didn't have that before. And so that's why I was like, oh, maybe this is actually a problem. So I want to confirm and make sure that it's not a problem. Okay, so Godot put scenes folder script folder from the beginning. So it always stays at 1 place, so no need to define path later because I always messed up path. I mean, so I think you're imagining something closer to what Game Maker Studio does, where it automatically subdivides resources based on like the type of the resource, or they call them assets. And then they still have global names for everything, basically. And so they have to distinguish between the files using, certain prefixes, essentially, right? So they have scr underscore for scripts and obj underscore for objects, and that's the kind of thing, right? So you'd have like, oh, if I need to make sure I can know where all my stuff is, I might have like scn underscore for various scene files, and gd underscore something for the GDScript files or whatever. It's if you delegated all of that responsibility strictly to the editor, that's not exactly what you're saying, I guess, right? So if you had a dedicated script folder and dedicated scene folder, I mean, Godot is generally of the mindset that it shouldn't have a too opinionated manner of doing things when it's trying to leverage an existing solution that is already generic. That makes sense, right? So it's already using the file system or some representation of a file system. And there are file systems that exist in Windows and Linux and Mac. And it needs to bring together all of those systems. So it has this generic file system representation. They do not want their abstraction around the file system to be opinionated, because that would restrict the full feature set and capabilities of those really powerful and robust systems that already exist in the respective operating systems. So I don't think, like, even if they could do that, I don't think they would. A lot of time, I mean, theoretically, you should be able to just organize things by having proper organization of your files and directories, right? Theoretically. But I know that the Godot editor also has filters that you can apply on the file system. So you can be like, hey, I turn on this filter and I only see like whatever certain files. At least if I recall correctly, I haven't really done a lot of Godot stuff lately. So, but like the fact that you can already do filtration based on file types or like data types or something of that nature means that you really don't need to have a lot of other built-in opinionated things, because the necessary filters to constrain search results to just that subset is already there. And they don't want to restrict people from being able to have more flexible mechanisms for organizing their content, which Godot currently allows them to do. Of course, you could always just have a plugin that you write that defines a new file system doc, essentially. Oh, it filters on names broadly. Is that it? Really? I thought there was something else. Maybe not. Well, that would be a good proposal if you wanted to be able to define file system filters and maybe have like a script that defines file system filters, and then you could just have that be something that is an additional filtration layer that just generates like a drop down or something, or like toggles, kind of like an enumeration. You could just like turn on and off various filters and just be powered by script, so that you can have a lot more fine-tuned control over what shows up in your file system doc. That would be a really cool feature, actually. Just make that a proposal and have a PR set up, and I'm pretty sure something like that might get accepted if it was written well. That would be a cool idea. But could be small buttons for filter for only GDScript, etc. Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking of. I don't know. Okay. Is this done building yet? Not yet. Okay. Yeah. If you're rebuilding the entire engine, it usually takes a little while, but after that first initial build, then making other like subsequent changes generally doesn't take too long, which is nice. Because the editor is split up a lot, very effectively. When I hear opening issues for proposal, I quickly turn back to make it with plugin API. Yeah. I mean, I was kind of in the same boat until I got to the point, like, because I started way earlier on. There isn't such a button, yeah. I was way earlier on where I wanted the engine to be a lot more than it was, because I was used to other software, like Unreal Engine or Unity or Game Maker Studio, where okay, not really. Game Maker Studio isn't applicable to this, but like there was the notion of I have a type, and the type is a thing, and I can pass it around and refer to it and all this stuff. And you can't do that in Godot because they don't have an object to represent a type. So you can't do anything with it. And it just frustrates me. And they still don't. And they've intentionally not done that for whatever reason. Because they're like, well, there's no reason to do it. There's no use case. That doesn't need to exist. And I'm like, okay. And yet it would simplify and like abstract and make things clear for a lot of different pieces of code all throughout the code base. You're still not doing it. I mean, I get why they don't want to do it, because they have a clear distinction between here's in-engine reflection data, right? So the classes and their methods and properties and how the classes inherit information from one another, and that's all just the native types that was built into the core of the engine. And then they have all the stuff that's injected into the engine via scripts, where like the scripts can define types, but the type itself like kind of is the script, so to speak, and then the scripts are only ever appended on top of whatever data is from the core type. And so they think of it as this completely divergent set of systems. And then the scenes are the same way. They're like another completely divergent, just serialized organization of existing or existing types and things. Requires refactoring the base code. Not exactly sure what that's referring to, because there have been like 3 possible topics in the last 5 minutes, but it's probably hold on a moment. Because I've suggested the possibility of having a quote unquote class type object that could just represent a type, and then you could be like, oh, I load up a class type and I tell it to instantiate, and I don't actually know if it's a native class or a script or a scene, but it knows that it's called this, and I'm trying to instantiate it. Please do so, And so it would just kind of abstract away all the complexity, and or be like, oh, give me all the classes that inherit this thing, and they could be like inherited scenes, inherited scripts, or actual in-engine classes. Right? And there's a lot of things like that I wish you could very easily do, but doing those kinds of checks is quite complicated in Godot Engine because they're all very different systems that store information in different ways, and they have entirely different use cases that they solve. And so none of them really, and they only enter the same domains in very specific, like marginal cases. And so they don't perceive it as being a significant enough use case where you'd want to refactor gargantuan portions of the engine all over the place to tie all of those things back down to an entirely new data type that's complex and stuff like that. Because ultimately, it's just a string. That's like the name of the thing. And they're like, why should we do that? I'm like, okay, because class DB, you just give it the string name and it instantiates it. And anyway. It's too deep in the stack, though. I guess like the, I guess the stack of like you have editor and then modules and then scene and then code, or a core rather. I guess that's maybe the stack you're referring to, because this is all stuff that's really in the core, and you're trying to make stuff that's in the core dependent on, not dependent on, but you're trying to you're trying to invert some of the relationships that are present there. I get, maybe that's what you're referring to. I don't know. Geez, this thing really is taking a while. It's going through all the like physics server. Oh, it's compiling the servers. Okay. All right, Laredo, let's get some screen time for you, huh? Yeah, that's right. You love coding, don't you? Yeah. Good boy. Oh yeah, hi. This thing's still going. Godot area 2D, so it's compiling the nodes. So we've finished the scenes and we're going. Oh no, it's still going into the server. Got server stuff it's working on. So it should be like it compiles the core, and then I thought the next step would have been servers, but maybe not. I thought it would be core, then servers, then scene, and then modules, and then editor. I'm more in the boat with stable 4.x and feature complete. There are tons of things missing. Oh yeah, I mean, 4.x is going to be amazing, but definitely is not stable right now. Like big time. We need to get that thing stable, but they just haven't gone to beta feature freeze yet, partly because there are a couple of last minute things like my PR that they want to get merged in before they do that. And they have PR meetings to review that stuff and determine whether to merge it in, and unfortunately they usually have those meetings when I'm busy with work and don't have time to join them. Unfortunately. So yeah, so as I was referring to earlier, okay, no, don't do that. That's my cable. That's the cable for my headphones. Thank you, dog. Which I guess I technically don't need, but it's wireless headphones. I just use this is what charges them, so I just keep it in. But yeah, so they'll compile the core of the engine, and then that's nice PR. Oh yeah, it would be very nice to get it merged in. They'll compile the engine, and they'll compile the core, and then the core is like all the low-level systems, the ability to load a resource, the ability to differentiate between classes, or to have the script concept, like all that kind of stuff, and math libraries, data structures, stuff like that. And then on top of the core, they'll have the scene. Core devs would, right? If I don't work on it. Debatable, because I mean, I would think not potentially, because a lot of the work at this point is delegation. Like, there are just so many pull requests, they don't have time to actually implement all the features, right? They spend all their time, for the most part, giving advice and then reviewing other PRs, because there are too many pull requests. Like, they have to knock them out. They don't really have enough time to just actually work on other arbitrary things unless it's like really critical. I don't know if they consider that to be that. I mean, it is like the top voted issue out of all the issues, so maybe it would be like that. But generally speaking, they would probably feel like they're infringing on my work or my role. If this were, this is basically my pet project of the last 2.5 years or 3 years, is just this pull request, this issue. Because I've literally been working on this feature since I started working on Godot. Because I've had this feature in mind. This is like, oh, this is what Godot is missing. Why the heck doesn't it have this already? I thought it was like the most bonkers thing that it wasn't a feature already. So I started working on it. But I basically did it badly or poorly, multiple times. And we're finally getting to the point where we can do this, because then, through my egging them on, as well as a couple of other people's, they eventually added the custom types for scripts in 3.1, and then ramifications of that was like getting all the other stuff added. Oh well, that's crazy. Yeah, if you're talking about like the length of time I've been working on this crap, yeah, it was kind of insane. And so they might feel like they're kind of infringing on my work if, they don't want to be rude by taking it over, so to speak. They want to make sure that I feel like my time and effort has been respected in some way. Hard work, yeah. I mean, ultimately, I don't care too much as long as it's in there, but I also would be a little miffed if that happened. I remember, like, I did all this crazy work to put forward a gigantic PR a while back that changed a lot of the core systems in a way that I liked them, basically, which would include that class type thing, and make the script server this like singleton that you can access from the scripting side, and you can just like refer to types by name and get, do all the stuff with them just like you could with the core types. And they were like, did you talk about this with like anyone? Did you get approval for this? Like, did you like consult anyone? We don't like these ideas exactly. Like, did you confirm that these were actually things that people wanted? Like, we don't know if we should merge this. There were just like so many question marks about it, which I totally understand now. But back then, when I first heard about it, I was kind of devastated because I spent like months working on this pull request for the engine. But that was like me being a complete noob with programming in public communities and like just didn't know how things were really done. It's like that kind of naive and arrogant college newbie who comes in and be like, oh yeah, I know how to handle this stuff. Let me plop down the things I know and everyone's going to respect me and think I'm awesome. And then they're just like, dude, what are you doing? What? It's like, why would you do this? Did you talk to anyone about this? Like, just like stupid stuff. Yeah. I mean, like, and even if I think something is a good idea, it's not necessarily something that someone else thinks is a good idea. And then, on the other side, even if a lot of people think it's a good idea, it might not actually be a good idea for the health and, maintenance of the engine, because you might be making things more complicated than they need to be, which is part of the reason that they don't want to have the, centralized type and stuff. Yeah, man, it's life for the open source. Yep. I just didn't know how that stuff went, so. Okay. I'm distracting myself with random talk. Okay, so we've got it compiled and running. Let's see if Godot actually has the issue now that we've got it compiled again. So this is an updated version of the code. I'm gonna clear this and save and delete the resource and recreate it. Okay, click. And say new urban terrain. Okay, dog, I need my hand. Thank you. I don't know if you guys can still see it. Yeah, you can't see him. He's literally just like sitting here in my lap this entire time. Let's see. Okay, so test and 5 and 3.14. Check and cool. On save. Okay, there he is. I wanted to see it on my replay, like see the dog come in on my camera. Save this. Nope, go to test. Okay. Test urban 1. That's what it was. Okay. And it saved it. Okay, that's weird. I did not expect that. Okay. Close. Try to reopen. And click here. And it still opens. Okay. What? So I cannot seem to reproduce whatever issue they were doing. That's fun. I mean, I like that, but also question mark. Hopefully that maybe they were talking about the .godot folder. Maybe I misunderstood it because I thought this. Oh, not unknown. Hey, man. Wow. Yeah, haven't seen you in a while. I finally had some time to actually do some programming, so I sat down and voila, here I am. Does he like cats? The dog? He likes cats somewhat. He's only really intimately met one cat. A lot of the other cats are kind of far away and are skittish, run away. And if he sees that, then he gets interested and tries to chase them and stuff. But on like a walk or something. But with our cat, we have a really lazy, laid-back outdoor cat named Kiki, and she just like hangs out in front of our house. And whenever I take him on a walk, he ends up seeing Kiki and just like sniffs her, and she's like, "Hey man, what's up?" She's like, "Hey there, sniff sniff. Okay, bye." Yeah, but I haven't really seen him with many other cats, so I don't really know too much. Okay. Well, that's that, I guess. I should probably test out having a variety of different syntaxes for exported properties so that we can make sure that those work. Because I haven't tested out some of these. It's not this one, it's... Well, actually, yeah, so this would also be a good opportunity, because this is a statically typed one. If I say terrain, and then don't populate that. Internal error. Export requires at most 0 argument. Oh, right, I think you have to say resource now, is that right? You have to specify... No? Export, okay, maybe I did it wrong. At export underscore oh, no, okay, yeah, they just flat out don't do that, alright. Is there... They must do it for some stuff, I know they do. For like a basic resource, right? Export, how do you export... I don't know what the new syntax is for exporting a resource. You just export. Do you not give, how do you specify the type of the export? Like resource like this? Var terrain, export, no. Annotation export expects 0 arguments. Okay, that still doesn't make any sense. Did they just never implement that? Without type or initializer, since it can't be inferred. Yeah. Didn't know that casting like that existed. In 4.0, yeah. Well, so I mean, the original. So in 3.x, you would, I think, if I recall correctly, you would do something like export, something like, oh, I've got a texture or something, right? Export texture, and then you'd have, it wouldn't even be this. It would be like export texture, and then you'd have var, whatever image or something equals null. Something like image equals null, and you would save it like this. But then they changed it because they added annotations in 4.0, and they made the export an annotation, and then the general export didn't have arguments. Isn't it removed? Yeah. And so I thought that the ability to export like a low-level resource would still be supported. Like, oh, I want to export a texture. I didn't think I would have to specify with static typing or even an initial value. Like if I say this is a texture 2d.new or something, right? Like, is that how you would export it now? That's weird. That you have to initialize a value with an actual object in order to make it. That shouldn't be right. That's stupid. Like, otherwise you have to resort to static typing. Static, like texture 2D equals null. It's like lag on my screen for some reason. So that's the only other, that's the only way that you can set a null value on an exported resource type. That's weird. I mean, it's a different syntax, but it's like you have to resort to static typing. It gives better performance, surely. So to be consistent syntax, yeah. I mean, I would have expected you to be able to give an argument for the export, or to have some kind of export resource with a, texture 2D, and then this could remain a dynamically typed property even though it's exported as a texture 2D, so that the inspector would have to perceive it as a texture 2D property, and you'd only be able to assign a texture 2D to it. And then when it assigns the texture 2D object to the property during initialization of the scene, it would be up to the property to decide what its actual type is and how it would handle that incoming value, because that's because it's an untyped property currently, right? In this representation, it's an untyped property. Declaring with type is irrelevant or assigned. You either dynamic type or static type with type. Declaring with type is irrelevant or assigned. Well, like, yeah, it's so right here, this property is a dynamic property because I haven't assigned a static type to it. and I'm assigning it null, right? But I don't even have to do that, right? Like even just this, it's a dynamic property. I can stuff anything that I want into it. And that was supported in 3.x. And I could then do an export and have a specific resource type that I wanted it to be exported as, even with the properties still being dynamically typed. And now in 4.0, it seems like that's no longer supported. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. Like, I don't know if that's considered a bug or if they did that on purpose. Wish I had something to drink. I might actually go and get a refill on coffee or something while also checking on the dogs. But I'm actually going to do that right now because my mouth is getting really dry. I'll be right back. You can static type with short. That's a type inference that you're right. You're giving it a static type. I was trying to make sure that it was possible to do it without static typing, because that was supported previously in 3.x. Alrighty, I am back. Is it removed? Okay, no new messages. Okay. I finally have coffee again. Anyway, so I'll probably have to bring that up with someone to make sure that's not something I'm supposed to fix somehow. But, yeah, that's weird. Export, because they would need a whole new export annotation to accommodate that if they wanted to have exportable typed resources, or have typed exported typed export properties where the properties are untyped. There we go. Thank you. I'm glad to be back. So anyway, meantime, at export var terrain of type terrain is equal to null. There we go. That's the original thing. So I cannot seem to reproduce the original issue. Known bugs, quick load menu does not display test. Is that still a thing? I don't know if that's still a thing. I thought I might have fixed that question mark. Quick load. No, I did not. testindustry.tres is still not showing up in this thing. Really? Wait, no, didn't I fix that? I thought I fixed that. Grr. Okay. What's my commit history here? Git log. Enable quick open to see scripted resources. Yeah, I thought I implemented that. GDRes all 4.0. Did that change didn't make it show up? I was positive I had that working. Test. Oh wait. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Test industry. So that was. Yeah. So if I urban_1.tres. So this is an urban thing, right? If I drop this here, that has an industry, and if I say quick load, then it shows up. Okay. But it didn't work for my test urban 1 tres. That's a problem, right? So if I hit clear or quick load, test urban, well, okay, maybe it doesn't show it just because it's the same file, question mark. But if I clear quick load, it should show up here. That's a problem. Test urban1.tres should show up. Oh, and well, no, yeah, because I was building on top of a change that someone else had done, so that the file system would be aware of what the types of its various files were. So that should have worked, which means I need to figure out why that is not giving me the information it should be. So git diff head tilde1. What did I actually change here? Inside quickopen.cpp in the editor code. So these are the header files. Need cpp files under editor. And then quick open. That's what it was called, right? Yeah, quick_open. It's just that I'm very skeptical. Can you save it to another file name? Just in case you are saving to same file name. It's just that I'm very skeptical of .godot folder. Yeah, trying to save it to a different file name. I mean, yeah, it's another possibility. So if I don't think that's going to matter here necessarily, but so if I do, okay, so if I save that, of course it's going to do something, but if I say make unique, and then I do a save, and then I say it's test urban2.tres, and then if I clear this, and then say quick load, yeah, nothing shows up. Load, of course, is going to actually have you like navigate the file system, but I don't know if that's what you were referring to, or maybe you meant a different resource. But yeah, so that did not work as intended. Okay. Okay, save the scene again. Code. Okay, so quick open. Here we go, CPP. And this was in, is it build search cache? Oh, which is where I'm at here. Okay. Iterate all possible types. So let's think of this here. Base types. Is this what gets called right before it opens it, perhaps? I'm hoping that's when it triggers. Quick load. Yes. Okay. You didn't load it back. Wait, what? Okay, maybe I missed what you were meaning. I probably just completely went over my head. is probably what happened. Wait, so load it back. So clearing this. We're gonna delete this. Not that it matters, probably. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll matter, but. Oh, and by the way, this scene is like extending another scene that like had some sort of property assigned here, which is why it's got the reversion icon, but that's not really relevant here. So new urban terrain, test 2, right? Give some stuff here. And then I'll save the scene first, so now it's an embedded resource. And then I hit save and do test urban2.tres. And then clear it. Save the scene. Oh, I didn't save the scene with the urban 2. Maybe try that. So save the scene, okay. And then quick load doesn't show anything, which I expected. And if I clear it, and then save the scene again, and then, I mean, either one of these is gonna let me click and drag it, right? Like, shouldn't matter. And if I already have a property that's on here, I should still be able to drag it. Yeah. And technically, this is just any terrain. So if I also make, I should be able to say new wild terrain. Yeah. Test 3, and it's got natural resources, which are new other resource objects. This is like, I don't know, coal. And then I have add another element, and I make this one another natural resource that has, say, gold. And who knows, we'll do another one, and we'll call it copper. Okay, right, so we have various natural resources on wild terrain. It's just like random crap I'm putting in here. Okay, and so now, oh, by the way, like this is the feature, basically. Like, this is the thing that's new, because you just could not do this before at all. Right? Like, it's super nice. Like, you could not do this because these are user-defined resource types. Like, that's just not a thing you can export. Like, you would be able to export a regular resource, but then this menu would have not just new natural resource, but like every possible, version of property or resource type would just show up in a massive list. And you wouldn't even see this other stuff, which that's another thing that really needs to be fixed. They should have like maybe a maximum of 10 things that show up in the list. That's really what should be. Yeah, I know Object apparently has seen this kind of stuff before, but there were some other people that didn't know. Oh, one watching now, so it's literally just you. Gotcha. So I'm talking to no one. All right. Maybe someone will see the video later and have an idea of like that they're actually getting something out of that knowledge. Okay. So wild terrain, if I save this, then I should be able to save it to a file, test wild1, and then shows up, and it did tie it to the file. And okay, theoretically, I should be able to. Can I like double click the thing? Yeah, so if I double click the resource, it shows up here. I should be able to make modification, like say I take out the, gold? So I delete the gold, I resave it, and now if I go back to the object here, testwild1.tres, it also has had it deleted. So it's got the copper and the coal. Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, I love that like just works. That's cool. Okay, so now let's figure out why the quick load is not working. So now I've got a couple of concrete resources in the file system that are of custom types, and the testindustry.tres was showing up, but not the others. I'm guessing it's because these others are derived types of whatever I've exported, whereas the industry one is actually the type that I exported. That's what I'm guessing anyway. Don't see any problem, lol. Yeah. Okay. So make sure I have that breakpoint in place. Did I take it away? Yes, I did. Let's put that back. So now, if I have this, I say quick load, get in here, base types is terrain. Okay. file attached string attached script type, which is, this should be the terrain or something, right? Wait, get file count. Oh wait, this is going to be iterating over all the different files. Okay. So if parent type of base types, okay, yeah, is parent class the file type resource? Parent type, which we don't know yet, right? Set the breakpoint there. So now parent type terrain. Which, how do we know? Let's see, the file, it's, oh, test wild one. Okay, great. I don't know why it ended up with that one first, but that's cool. Parent type is terrain, right? Because that's the, no, wait, that's not right. Get file of resource script class name did not save it with the correct thing. That's why it's wrong. Okay, so the code from the, I built my thing on top of some work that someone else did. So their code is not storing the correct data type on this, which is because that's how it's being assigned here, right? Get file of resource script class name, if path is empty, and he's just storing this as a property on the thing, right? File index files, yeah, this is the file cache that the file system, that the editor file system is keeping track of. File system path script path base dir. File script class name. Path base dir is equal to get path. Else. Okay. But yeah, so either way, it just ends up getting to the script class name. Okay. So script class name is not being assigned the right value. We need to find all the references to this and where it's happening. And I don't have my shortcut on my local Visual Studio. So go find all references. Okay. It's in editor file system. Getting the value, setting the value is all here. Where would have been the stuff from his new code? Ugh. He had a ton of commits. I don't want to have to parse through all that stuff. Dang it. Well, guess I know what I'm doing. Gotta look through code that he wrote. Okay. So files change, checks commits. Because I merged together all of his commits into one big commit, and now it's a ton of stuff, right? So what do we got here? Actually, is script extendable resource? We assume that only resources can have attached scripts, excluding scripts and packed scenes, which extend resource. Okay. Paths empty. Is built in. Script extendable resource. Okay, then he's got last modified time stuff. No, wait, he's moving those. What happened here? Oh, he changed the... Okay. Was it not compliant somehow before? Why did he do that? And, okay, I don't know why he did that, but whatever. I mean, it was perfectly readable before. In fact, probably more readable. Whatever. Get a script, get attached script path. Get attached script path. Oh yeah. Okay. Open pf into main resource index for const ext resource external resources. Get class static. Oh. Get attached script path. If e.type is equal to script get class static. Oh, okay, so if the resource in question has an external resource and one of those external resources is a script, then it grabs the path of that script. So it finds the first one, finds the first external resource that is a script. Which, would that be a script property? I mean, in theory, possibly. I don't know if that's guaranteed, though. That's questionable. I mean, because you could have, like, you know, say you've got a script that it's, or, you know, say you have if you have a resource that is, you know, a custom resource with exported properties, and then say it also has a constant reference to some external script that's just like, oh, I'm importing a type, quote unquote, and I'm not using a global type, I'm just importing it via file path, so I have a constant on my script. That's an external resource that is a script. So that, I mean, I don't know if it's guaranteed that it would be this thing. So I should ask him to verify that that is actually safe. Let's see, that would be in his actual thing. Let me go to the conversation because I have a reference to it. Enable to see, which is built on top of this. And I don't know if I've already commented on this or not, so let's make sure I have not done that. Oh, okay, so they were already talking to him about the Clang stuff, I guess. Okay. Well, files changed. Yeah, I want to add a comment about this thing. I'll start a review because I'll have multiple things to say, but this is just another thing. While I was working out the other bug, I'll have like an actual bug that I mention. I also noticed this. It is possible that you could end up with something like this. So GD script, and then I have what extends resource and class name, you know, my resource, and then have const, you know, my dependency is equal to preload, or I guess I say colon equals preload my dependency dot gd as script or gd script, right? Burrito, shush, hey, no, stop. Yeah, and so then if you have that, right, that would be resource. Well, no, this is the script. Okay, wait, never mind, wait. So you would have this, okay, and then you'd have export, right, var, I don't know, you know, count, it doesn't matter, some exported property. This is my resource.gd, and then you have actual resource.tres, you know, with an exported property that is a resource, right? Yeah. So maybe have, so export var, you know, dependency that is a script equal to null. There you go, do it that way. Actual resource, you know, any resource that has my resource as its script will have both its of base type script, which will potentially make this fail. I don't know if it is at all guaranteed that the first script typed property in the external resource list will be the script property versus some other property. Yeah. I got some sort of text message, I think. Making sure I'm not missing anything important here. Nice. Okay, just my wife telling me that she found a great deal on antibacterial spray. Awesome. Okay. Alright. So the next issue, get attached script path. It's not what we care about. Okay, what did we call? We called get file resource script path. This is from the script class name. Oh gosh, I somehow mucked that up. Don't modify that, thank you. Yes, I know my phone ringtone sounds like a doorbell. I got 4, 7. Wait, I got 4, 7. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Keep on getting text messages here. She doesn't know that I'm streaming, so she is not trying to be like cognizant of my streaming or something. Okay, so get file resource script path, right? That was from script class name, because we're returning this. Things were assigning values to it. We need to make sure that the script class name is getting assigned the right value, because we were being given terrain even though the resource was actually being saved with wild terrain or urban terrain or something like that. So the specific type, it was associating the script class name with whatever the type of the export was, not with what the type of the actual object being saved was. That was the problem. Yeah. Okay. I guess I could look at all the different places where we are assigning values here, but I was trying to find where his code was assigning a value to it, because evidently he had made a change that allowed this information to be stored in the engine, right? Get attached script path. That's not what I'm using though, right? Okay, get file resource script class name. Get file resource script class name. Script class name. Script class name is equal to. Is there any references to that? Did he change that? No, resource script path. That's all he did. He added resource script path. Am I just pulling the wrong data? Is that all this is? Might be all this is. If you export type as base resource, but you try to attach extended of base resource, what happens? Well, I mean, that's what we're seeing now, right? If you try to attach extended, yeah, like, so I'm exporting a basic terrain data type, and I have an urban terrain and a wild terrain, and I'm saving those as concrete resources or creating instances of those concrete resources in as embedded resources in the scene file. And when you try to, the quick load is using the cached data type of the resource in the editor file system in order to determine which list of resources to show. And it is doing an inheritance check on that type, but the check that is being, or the type of the resource that is being fetched is terrain, not the urban terrain or wild terrain. So it's not even going, it's going up the hierarchy, but it's starting at the base type, which it shouldn't be doing. And the reason it's doing that is because the resource, or the type that's being associated with the resource, is the wrong data type, or at least the function I was calling to get that information. Get file resource script class name. It could be that I'm just calling the wrong function, because I thought this was supposed to return the, I thought this was the new API that the other guy had implemented that would allow me to get the actual data type of the saved resource. Yeah, okay, you get what I mean, yeah. I don't know how much of a delay lag there is, so I feel like you're probably sitting there listening to me ramble on. Okay, resource script path, get attached script path. That seems like the property that he added. Scan new dir. In which case, yeah, resource script path is the thing he added. So I need to get resource script path. Get file resource script path. Get file resource script class name. Which, oh, okay, I see. So then he gets the script path. Okay. Well, then the resource script path must be what's wrong. If it's correctly fetched. Okay, now I need to see what this is actually doing. So get file resource script class name, which is here. I really kind of don't want to have to do this, because this is going to trigger like in a lot of random cases. Awesome. Like, this is just going to hit a lot of things. Oh, wow. Lucky. Okay. So it just randomly started with the first file I actually cared about. Get file resource script path. Script path base dir. Wait, what? Script path base dir. Which is already something wrong? Script path dot get. Wait, what is script path? Which is empty. P index is 1. Files, which has 3. And I'm getting index 1, which is urban underscore terrain. What? P index is 1. Script path. File resource script path. So files would have been for urban terrain.gd. Why would it return empty for resource script path? Is it the timeline of when this is running? Does this execute again for like a different thing? Build search cache. Okay, wait, so I'm just gonna skip that for now. Actually, we're just gonna let this run. I'll let it run, let it do its thing. I'll cancel this. Okay. Now add a breakpoint. And if I go back to the editor, it'll trigger. Yep. Okay. Because anytime the editor comes into focus, it reinitializes the script information by doing a fresh scan of the file system so that it's able to detect changes, potentially from like external programs that are modifying the project files. Script path, get file resource script path, right? So right now, call stack, update tree for the file system doc, get file icon, file resource script class name. Oh, really? That's calling that too? Okay, cool. Script class name, this is index 2. Script path is still empty. What's the actual file here? Number 2 is urban_terrain.gd. Yeah, that's not right. Before it yeah, it also crashes if you press play before it recaches the files. It crashes if you press play before it recaches the files. Interesting. I mean, I guess if it's important that it, has the things cached, then the attempt to play needs to delay until the cache has been rebuilt. So whenever you hit play, it should be like, oh, delay until you know that the cache has been rebuilt, and then resume. Alt-tab and press F5 fast. Oh, lovely. Yeah, if you do Alt-tab and press F5 fast. Oh, I see. Yeah, so if you Alt-tab into the application, and so while it's rescanning and rebuilding the cache, and then you hit F5, it can end up crashing. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, ideally, yeah, you would just modify the play button so that it delays execution of the play until the cache is finished being rebuilt. Which, ideally shouldn't take that long, but also, oh crap, that kind of sucks, I mean, it should give you immediate feedback that, it's attempting to play, but it should be like, hold on 1 second, rebuilding cache, and like you see a little loading screen or something. That's what it should do. You wait 1 to 2 seconds, yeah. Okay, get file resource script. No, Laredo, get out from under me. No, go out, go. Good boy. He's like, let me squeeze in between your legs. And I'm like, nope, can't do that, dog. Alright, so I have 1 hour left before I need to start feeding my dogs dinner. Because it's 4:02 p.m. right now for me. Let's see. File resource script. Okay, so how is this not getting initialized properly? That's what we need to figure out. Not really crash, but freeze. Oh, well, yeah, that would kind of make sense. Yeah, that it waits. So it is waiting to finish the cache before it does it. It just doesn't update the UI. It freezes up the main thread. Yeah, which it shouldn't be doing. Okay, so you end up killing the editor process. Yeah. Where's my thing? File resource script class name is here. And this, okay, so this is about assigning the resource script path. That's really what I want to see references to. Find all references, because this is getting assigned the wrong value. So this gets assigned in these 3 places. File info from the cache. So the cache has it saved and populates file info. Do that again here, right? Yeah, and these are different portions of the import process for the resources, right? During scan new dir, yeah. How it's configured to import files, import extensions.has.ext if it is imported. Then it does it one way, and then otherwise, if it doesn't have that extension, or doesn't have that, what is it? Import extensions.has.ext. Oh, the extension. Yeah, so like if it has the, I don't know, the ext. I haven't really looked at this code much, so looks like something. So if it has something .import, then it does that. So there's, oh, import. Okay, so if imports have been configured to handle one of whatever the extension is that you are observing, then it does this logic. But then if import has not been configured to handle that file extension, then you get this logic. Okay, that makes sense. This is like the backup logic to do whenever it doesn't really know what it is you're importing. Potentially, that's my brief understanding of it, without really peering in too deeply. Nope, wrong thing. Okay, so the resource, yeah, here we go, this is what I want. Next section. By the way, do you have insight of why .gdignore isn't working? No clue. No idea. I am aware that gdignore is like a gitignore type thing for Godot. That's, I think, when you export a project, right? But I just, truth be told, I think I've exported a project with Godot like maybe once when I was making like a little game jam game. So I haven't actually done Godot development because I legit am just like, I don't want to use Godot until I've fixed it, essentially. So I haven't actually made any games with it, seriously, because I just want to make sure the features I want are built into it first. No, I don't think it ignores files per se. I mean, it does, but it, like, you know, it's, my understanding, I could be wrong, but my understanding was that it was related to exporting files for a game. So, which, you know, you have your export template and you configure it to export things. I could be totally wrong, though. It might actually be related to, hey, Godot, when you're scanning files, just don't bother scanning these files, and that's gdignore. I have no idea. I don't use it. I haven't used it because I don't really do Godot development. I do Godot Engine development with the plans to eventually use it for development. Used it for PNGs. Okay. Yeah. I'd have to look into gdignore and see what it actually is. Godot editor doesn't touch it and import it or even process it. Oh wow. Yeah. No idea. No idea. Okay. Resource script path. Get attached script path. Thought you could use it in Godot 4, yeah. I mean, it could just be that it's a regression, like they've done various refactorings that rendered it, you know, not really applicable somehow, and they just haven't added the functionality back in yet. It could be what it is. I have no clue. I've been kind of out of the Godot game for quite some time, as I kind of alluded to earlier. So, I mean, it's basically just my PR that I know about, and like other, you know, primetime features that have been, you know, discussed and advertised on like Twitter or something. Okay, so get attached script path, which, man, I hate not having all my shortcuts on my machine here. Okay. I have like a different, I remote into a different machine for work, and I have all my shortcuts for Visual Studio like on that one, and I don't have it on my local one, so I'm like trying to do things and I don't have the shortcuts in place. It's Markdown, you know? Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, validate local path. Let's try this, right? So, theoretically, there's an error? When was there an error? I don't know. Oh, yeah, back when I was doing that stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's clear, right? That's what that is? Clear? Yeah. Added some syntax, like GScript syntax, as a note. Then Engine started to process it as a GScript file and gave me a bunch of errors. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Weird. What? That's weird. I don't like that. That should be a bug. Like, I would see if you're still capable of doing that and then submit a bug report if you haven't already. Be like, hey, I just have this random file and I put GDScript in it and it interpreted it as a GDScript file. I'm like, nope, it should not be doing that. Yeah. Okay. It's alpha, yeah. Resource path, don't know what, yeah. Get resource file, script path. Okay, so I'm not hitting the breakpoint. I said get attached script path, so where does this get used? Well, no, it's, well, yeah, okay, so I do want to know when. It's when it's doing this that I care about. Get attached script path. which it does in this else case if modification time is equal to MT not imported. Right, so if it's been modified since the last time, okay, so I have to modify the script in order to trigger it. All right, that's fine. I can do that. So wild1.tres, right? Save. Is that gonna trigger it? No, that didn't do it. I guess I have to actually like change it. That save all the resources. Save this resource maybe, save. Should have been a modified resource. This is the scan dir thing, right? Yeah. You know, I changed file extension to .txt. Yeah. Yeah, I figured. Yeah, that's weird. Like, if it's not a .gd extension, it should not be treating it as a GDScript file whatsoever. But yeah, definitely expected with weird things like an alpha build. Do I need to, okay. Set a breakpoint here. We're just gonna start at the top level, like let it get hit by things. No, that didn't trigger it, seriously. Do I have to actually like modify a file in order to get it to frickin' trigger the thing? Why is this not hitting a breakpoint? Is that the list of files? Am I doing something stupid? I must be doing something really, really dumb that I'm just not noticing. Let's put this on here. Demo. Test wild res. And then new natural resource of copper. Saved. And if I just load, can I edit? Wait, I had a breakpoint there. Oh, I don't care about that. There we go. Now save. Okay, directly saved it. Still not triggering. Why am I not hitting my breakpoint? I should be hitting a breakpoint. Okay, let's try this one more time. Just restart it, because that's really strange. Oh, lovely, exception thrown. That's fantastic. Data size for is empty failed on instance binding free callback for an object of type resource. Texture 2D. Is that because I momentarily set texture 2D as an exported property? Or theme set fallback icon? Fallback icon for what? When were we doing this? There was a mem delete of a texture. Clear default theme. Set fallback icon. So if you set a fallback, okay, this couldn't have been me that did this, but clean up. Ref counted instance binding free. Oh wait, C# language. Oh, I wonder if this is something related to custom logic I might have added. Does this branch have C# stuff in it? I didn't think I had that yet. Not in this branch. Yeah, no, this wasn't me. Okay, well, whatever. I'll just let that go, because I did not do that. Weird. Yeah, okay, sure, you're throwing exceptions, I get it. I want to hit a breakpoint when it's scanning files, so I can actually see how the resource script path is being assigned, because that's erroneous. And then I could finally finish the review/feedback on the other guy's pull requests, because he needs to know that his thing is not populating data properly so that he can fix his pull request. And therefore my thing will work properly too. Or I'll just add a separate commit that fixes it and then be like, hey, you should make this change in your PR. 2 people watching. So is it possible for me to actually see like who's watching? No? Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I guess with Twitch you kind of can. Well, no, only if people end up, chatting, I would guess, maybe. I mean, I guess it's the same thing here, right? I don't really use Twitch or YouTube for streaming very often. This is my first time doing it for YouTube. Or for Twitch, actually. I haven't done any Twitch streaming either, so. Does reload current project in menu work with editor? Possibly? In case you need it to read the directory. Yeah, maybe. I had not tried doing that. Okay. I just, of course, no, I'll take the simple route of rebuilding the entire engine to restart the editor. That's what I'll do, yeah. Your solution was much simpler. Well, okay, assuming that restarting the editor in that way actually doesn't, close the process and therefore terminate the debugging attachment of Visual Studio. Which I don't think it would, but. Okay, Laredo, get back. No, dog, no. There you go. Okay, so I hit the breakpoint. Excellent. Let's go here, here, and it's going to go over directories. That should be fine. Of course, it's going to hit more stuff again. Directory. Okay, so maybe I don't quite care about that. It's just going to get all the files. All right. So when I asked, it pops up the project select window, but it's all the same process, I think. Yeah, pretty much. Gosh dang it, my dog is still barking out there. That's not good. Okay, I gotta stop him. I'll be right back. This is ridiculous. Calm down. You're okay, dog. He's like, I was going nuts without you. Okay. Alright. Modify time, files. Okay, so iterating over the files, right? Extension is tres for testurban1. Okay. Path calculated as res testurban1.tres, that's right. MT if file cache and equal, which it's not because it was modified, right? Because for whatever reason it didn't run earlier, so the stuff wasn't updating. That could be another bug in Godot 4, because if the scan process doesn't trigger, then files won't actually update properly. Let's see. Maybe it didn't trigger because the structure of the file didn't change. Like the .t, like the data changed, but the like properties didn't change. But the modified time of the file still should have been updated. So I don't know why it didn't trigger the scan. Whatever. And it's supposed to trigger a scan anytime you come back to the editor anyway. I don't know why it wasn't triggering earlier. That's bizarre. Okay, resource type. Resource loader get resource type fi type. Okay, right, so resource script path, UID, this is where we care about. Path, get attached script path. Local path, loader count. It only updates the required. Wait, that doesn't refresh because no files are changed. It only updates the required files. Well, sure, but I had instances where I was modifying values on the T-res and then saving the T-res, which then would have updated the file on the file system with new data. So that should have been a modification to the modified time of that file, which then means that, hey, this file was updated, you know? Doesn't refresh because no file, because in that case the file was changed. It wasn't it wasn't an embedded file. It was an actual file, or sorry, an embedded resource. It was an actual, concrete resource that was in the file system, and that was being saved too. Oh, okay. Just more texts from my wife. Okay, interesting. Dang. Okay. Type equals 0. I let loader count. Path get attached script path. Oh, I bet it's his implementations of these resources. Right. Okay. That would make sense. Get attached script path, which calls the get attached script path. Get attached script path. Script instance, which is returned. Get extension. Native extension. That's interesting. Wait, what? Get attached script path. What? Which it didn't do. Resource format loader. Wait, which? Theora. Oh, okay, so that was for a Theora loader. Okay, now it makes sense. All right. So we're going through the different loaders. Yeah. That makes sense. Is there a way? Okay, can I just know what all? I've got 15 loaders. Wonderful. All right. Is there a faster way for me to know exactly which loader I care about? Yikes. Okay. Okay, there we go. Loader shader. Text. Wait, that was probably it, right? Resource format loader text. So the second index, excuse me. So I is 1. Don't care about that. I care about this one, right? Get attached script for resource format loader. Okay. String type get resource type. Wait, so what is the content of this? Let's see. Get resource type. If not resource is script extendable resource type, then return empty string. File access open p underscore path. What is get attached script path? Script extendable resource. Class DB string name p class. We assume that only resources can have attached scripts, excluding scripts and packed scenes, which still extend to resource. Okay, is parent class resource. So you check to see if the given class is a resource type or no, so it has to be something that extends resource and is not a script and is not a packed scene. Okay, that makes sense. Or a derivative of, yeah, packed scene or script. Yeah, that makes sense. So it has to be a resource that is not something extending script or packed scene. Makes sense. All right. So then you check that for whatever type, and you're determining the type by get resource type on the path. Okay. Get resource type on the path. So where's this defined? And wait, where's that type used? Type. We don't use type, we just use it for that check. Okay. file, open the file, read. Text loader, get attached script path. Okay, so it has its own way of fetching that, which I'm sure I'll have to look at. P_f, which is, yeah, just going to be a different implementation that uses the file access. Okay, I'll have to look at that too. So get resource path, enter this. Okay, so, or get resource type, sorry. ext, so this is where it determines the type of what is at the path for the purposes, for the purpose of verifying whether it's allowed to be this thing, which at that level, you really just care about the base type, or the native type, so that doesn't really matter. Like this can still be a built-in type, and that would be fine. Resource exit extension lower T, yeah. Recurrent loader, resource path. I mean, the only way that this could go badly somehow is if you had something that mucked up the interpretation of some derived class so that it wouldn't be imported as a valid, version of its base type, which would be stupid anyway. Like, oh, I'm going to have a more derived version of a texture 2D or a PNG file or something, but it's not going to be interpreted as a texture 2D or something bizarre like that. Make it, oh, this is a .png file that's actually a script, and it's extending the script class. Like that would be the way, or the packed scene class or something bizarre like that. So I don't think that's something we need to worry about. Okay, so that's fine. Then file access open, right? So now you can read the file, and then loader, and you get the attached script path. Here we go. Open the file. Opening itself is pattern. Is also seen in resource format binary.cvp. It makes it convenient to not have to call open before this method. Okay. Stream.f. pf. Yeah, so the file access, right? And then stream ignore resource parsing equals true. Okay. Don't know what that means yet. Next tag ext, while next tag is equal to ext resource. If next tagged fields has path, type, ID, you're returning an empty get attached script path. Oh, if it does not have path, type, ID. Interesting. Okay, wait, so what is next tag? Name, ext resource, and fields. Has path, type, ID. Okay. I think, because if I recall correctly, right, the file saves, yeah, and it's got all those square brackets with the various things, and those will each have other fields inside of them, right? So you're iterating over all the ext resources and essentially guaranteeing that they all have a path, a type, and an ID. Otherwise, you're gonna skip. You're just gonna leave. So it has to be. So every ext resource has to be properly formatted. Essentially, is my understanding. And then type is next tag.field subtype. Skip the tags until we find the script tag. If type is equal to script. Okay. So you find the first external resource that is a script. String path equals next tag dot fields subpath. String ID is equal to next tag dot fields sub ID. If path dot is relative path, localize path plus file path. Loaded, so convert to a resource path. Right, yeah, that makes sense. If remaps does dot has path, path is equal to remaps path. Don't know what that's about. Remaps? Maybe that's for like redirections, maybe? If like there's some reference to the file path somewhere in the editor, and then the file moves, and rather than updating all the file paths, it just has a redirect. I don't know if that's actually a thing it's doing, but removed the parsed resources from the total. Resources total minus equals resource current. Resource current is equal to 0. Is this something it's using to iterate over stuff? No. Next tag. Resource current plus plus. Well, yeah, so it must be resource current is equal to 0. And then it iterates it to 1. That's if it's equal to script. Okay, I'm losing my place a bit here. What the heck are these properties? These gotta be member properties on the resource loader text or something. Probably when it starts, I bet it's something related to this. There's some external state whenever it starts to open a file, I bet. Go peak definition. Okay, so resource current equals 0. And the tags, how does it get? Tagged fields, tag. Where does tag get initialized? Tag, error, parse tag with the stream, lines, error text, and tag. Okay, so the error text and the tag are taken out once you get the parse tag result. Okay. And this is what initializes all the state. Okay. So then do we have logic that's doing another parse tag or something? Yeah, here. Okay. Yeah, I was just completely skipping over that. All right. Resource current plus plus. All right. Oh, and then you're kind of resetting these because you've found your path, so to speak. Okay. But all he's really doing is finding the first external resource that happens to be a script. Right? If path is relative, he makes sure it's a relative, or if it's localized path, he makes sure that it's relative to the res folder. And then remaps.has path. Path is equal to remaps subpath. Okay, sure. The only thing he checks is that it's a script. So this doesn't actually verify that the script is done properly. Is custom resource is script? Okay, so unfortunately the term custom resource is a little bit loaded because in Godot, I think, was it 3.0 or like 2.1 or something, like they introduced a custom resource thing where a plugin could add a custom resource. They were like, oh, you guys want custom resources, is that right? Okay, let's make it so that the plugins can register a custom resource, and you just say add custom resource or something, or add type or some stupid command, and you give the path to the resource and an icon, and then it allows the editor to like show it in the list of or it wasn't even resources, it was nodes. You had add custom type, and you could specify a node, and that would be a way to create a node in the scene doc that would have the script just automatically attached to it, and it would have a custom icon. And that was it. That was the only functionality it had. The scripting languages couldn't recognize the type at all. It was still just a regular scripted node, and there was no reflection compatibility, no global recognition of the type. There was no other editor integrations. I was just like, how did you think that was the solution people were asking for? Like, what? Anyway, a lot of things just do not make sense to me, but it's just because they're not seeing things the same way because they don't use the engine the same way, and so they don't understand where people are coming from and what they want, right? And so I understand, but at the same time, I just didn't, because it didn't make any sense to me at all. Anyway, but yeah, so custom resources are often referred to as this really stupid old way of handling resources. Then you have the global script classes, which is the thing that's introduced in 3.1, just the class name, a keyword in GDScript. And that's where you get a lot of the, the ability to have globally defined, user-defined types that happen to be scripts. And then the fact that they added that just didn't have any existing integrations with the rest of the engine. And so if you tried to have a global script class that was extending resource, then it's quote unquote a custom resource, but it's not really, it's not the same, it's not the low level or the old custom resource thing, or the custom type thing, but it is a, user-defined type that happens to be something extending resource. And then you have resources that are just regular resources that are that have a user-defined type on them, and therefore, extending the data, which is what our whole thing is about, right? That's what we're trying to fix. So this code is trying to, someone else wrote a PR that was trying to fix how the editor icons in the file system doc, if you added a custom icon to a global script class that was extending resource, then the file system doc wasn't properly showing those icons, I think, something of that nature, if I remember the PR or the issue, correctly, right? Fix custom resource icons not appearing in file system. Yeah, so the file system doc was not displaying the custom resource icons properly. And the reason for it is because in order to even know that you need to render a different icon, you have to know what the type of the resource is. And in order to know the type of the resource, you had to load the resource, which was like, that would just imply that every time you scan the file system, you have to load all resources in the file system, which is like a stupid idea. Like, it's like, no, I'm not going to open up every single file just because I want to, get some metadata about it. And so, so this PR is trying to address that by actually, allowing the resource files to track, or it makes it so that the editor file system can track additional metadata about the resources, about the resource files that includes what script they have attached to them, if they have any at all. That way you don't have to load the entire resource just to get that piece of information. That's why we were seeing that resource script path stuff in here, right? Resource script path. So this is the thing that the PR added. But the way that he's adding it is just grabbing the first resource that it finds. I mean, that's not what my problem is necessarily, because I don't seem to be grabbing the wrong script in terms of, like, I don't think I have multiple scripts being referenced in the external resources of my saved resources. I don't think I do. I mean, I can double check that, but that would be that's just a possible problem that I foresee with the way he's implemented this. Because what it should do is, when I'm trying to save something that is a resource file, I need to iterate. I need to find the script property of that resource. So iterate over all the properties until you find the one that's called script, and then get the value and make sure. Can you try that it's actually valid point? I don't know what you export a script class. Can you try that it's actually valid point? I mean, yeah, I do want to try it. I just want to make sure. I want to see if I can actually fix or determine what my problem is first, because I'm already kind of going into it. Because my problem is that it's seeing the scripted type as terrain rather than as wild terrain or urban terrain, since it would work out of the box, since resource is a script. Resource is not a script. Scripts are resources. Maybe that's what you meant? Yeah, I know your problem. Yeah. Okay, resource loader, get attached script path. Okay, right, so here, skips over some things, external resources. The type is script. And what is the P_F? So what am I actually examining at the moment? File access windows. At the path. Okay, so test urban1.tres. Script is also a resource. Yes, script is a resource. That is true. But script does not have a property that would attach, like this would not be applied to a script, because this is trying to identify, what script might be attached to a resource rather than being a script, since you use load script to import it. Since I use load script to import. Oh, yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah, so script is a resource because you say load and you give it the path to the script, and yeah, that's right. Okay, script, so tags, next tag dot fields type, if type is equal to script. Oh, wait, yeah, so this is, it's finding an external resource that is a script. Yeah, that's what it is doing, okay. So that's, my analysis is still correct, okay. Which is bad, because this is not a good implementation of this, I don't think. Or it's a potentially erroneous implementation. Path is relative, which it's not, it's an absolute path from res. Remaps, which it does not have. Return path, which we got path as res urban terrain.gd. Test urban1.t. Wait, so that worked. So it knows that it's an urban terrain.gd. What I'm most confused about, Godot, resource can have parent/inherited resource script and also attached script. Parent inherited resource script and also attached script. Oh, yeah. I mean, it is a little confusing because there are resources that are capable of representing types. That's where it gets confusing, which is why earlier on they're like, oh, is this a script extendable resource? And it prevents you from making packed scene or script be one of those types. You know, that's the reason they do that, is because they don't want people confusing, scripts with other resources or packed scenes with other resources. So you're not allowed to extend those two types to create more sophisticated versions of them. It's just the engine handles those basically, and you're not allowed to mess with it unless you're adding a module that adds an entirely new implementation of a scripting language or something. Yep. Okay. Path. So that actually worked. Return the path. We stored path urban terrain.gd. So it knows that urban terrain.gd is the type of that file, test urban1. Okay. Is it going to do the same thing for the others, right? So it returns the path, which then sets it on the resource script path. I wonder, if I just let this play out, was it just a matter of things not updating properly? Right, okay, wait, so let this go again, test wild1, which should also do the same thing, path. Yeah, so it also, oh wait, no, path is empty. Oh crap, so now I actually need to figure out why it's empty. So the test urban1 worked, right? And now demo, I don't care about that. Tile2D, don't care. Now the editor's opening up on this other screen here. Okay, and now demo scene, right? And if I say quick load, so it updated and now has test urban 1 and 2 working, but the wild one didn't work. Why did wild one not work? That's weird. And the only thing I did was restart the editor. So the problem was just that the file system wasn't scanning. It didn't trigger the scan. And therefore, the quick load did not update. That's all that happened. But I do need to figure out why wild res did not, or this thing didn't do it. What did you say? You could, oh, reload current project? Okay, yeah, let's give that a shot. Is that, oh, lovely, it just throws an exception. Well, that worked wonderfully. Try this again. And now I want to actually find out why wild1 did not properly get its type correct, or the file path correct for the resource. Okay, so if I can make sure that the file path, or so that the file scanning is actually triggering, then theoretically the quick load will work correctly. But yeah, the way he implemented that thing, I need to make sure that that's not going to cause other issues. I need to have a working, like a broken use case of that, so that I can give him to that as so that I can pass that off as a good, broken test case for that guy. I have a lot of like dog hair and crap on my desk. Thank you, dog. Okay. Hitting breakpoint sometime soon? Maybe? Oh, I already did. Okay, lovely. Scan new dir. Where's my other breakpoint, right? I had a breakpoint there. Okay, still there. So, continue. Okay. Urban 1. And that one is not working again. Okay. Why is that? Test wild 1. Let's go in here. Get attached script. Oh, right. I don't know which loader this is. Crap. Format loader, path returned. Yeah. It could be a number of things, right? So you have to... Man, I really do hate how I just can't know which thing. Is it loader number 2 again, right? Is it this one again? Text, yeah, that's the one. Alright. Eek. Can I modify the breakpoint where I is equal to 2? Close. And then go again. Yes, okay. There we go. Resource type, which this should be fine. Okay, and here. And this file has been saved. Can I open VS Codium? I want to directly inspect my file really quick. Godot. I don't have my project in here. Demo inspector resources. Is that right? The right one? I think so. Yep, that's the one. So then, is that not the right one? Where's my subfolder? Wait, what? Open folder. Did I do it wrong? Have demo inspector resources. Oh, am I in? Oh, I'm probably in this one. Yeah, I bet this is the one I'm in, because that's what I configured previously. Alright, let's add folder to workspace. This one. And then, boom, inspector resources. Mono with test res. Yep, that's what it was. Okay. Even though, I don't know if it's really doing mono right now, because I'm not testing mono, but okay. Test wild 1, so GD resource, ext resource script. Aha! See? I have 2 scripts. That is the reason. Natural resource and wild terrain. Because I have on wild terrain, there's an exported resource. Wow, I don't even need to come up with a fancy use case. It literally just does not work out of the box with my test project. Okay. Yeah, that would be part of the reason that this does not work. But wait, so why did it not work on the test urban a second ago, even though that one doesn't have any types? Oh no, it does. It's got industry. Well, that would be the reason. Okay, so his code just doesn't work because, like, none of the stuff is working because his thing doesn't properly do it. Lovely. VS Codium, yeah. That's. I mean, at work I use VS Code, at home I use VS Codium. That's kind of how it goes, because my work is kind of, Microsoft biased, so I just use that for everything. Alrighty. So I just need to fix his code and then have that be a thing that I incorporate into my pull request, and then I can just tell him how it was fixed and whatnot. That is assuming I actually figure out like the right way to fix this. Okay, so, and I think there were multiple places, right, where this was an issue, because there was this code, and then I thought there was something else as well that was specifically checking script like this. It was in his pull request, right? I commented on this, right? That was, yeah, here. Yeah. This thing, get attached script path, was the same way. Get attached script path here, right? And okay, so in his concrete implementations, he made the same mistake. That's what the problem was. So when he did the concrete implementation here, no, not there. In this other area somewhere, get file icon. I might have to look at that again, but I wonder if that's why I'm getting something about an icon, but I'm having the exception when I close the editor. I'll check on that in a second. Is this it? Yes, this is it. Marked it as resolved. What is the error here? Return the icon of the first found script type subresource, not necessarily from the script. Yeah, this is exactly what I was saying. Nearly impossible to get it to display wrong icon without editing the scene manually, so I wouldn't worry about yeah, no, definitely a point of worry. Could it find a use case? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing right now, sorry. Looks like the script property just located on the bottom of the resource tag. Looking into resource format text SVP, a lot of it is strongly coupled to loading every resource you parse. You'd have to make some big changes to the inner workings of the class to make parsing without loading possible in a clean manner. As I said, this is not important in most cases. When you create a custom resource, the script will always be first. Is that so? Is that so? Because that's not what I was seeing. Wild. Yeah, no, it was not first, it was last. I mean, is it that it's always last? I mean, maybe that's the thing? And he just got the, order wrong somehow? I mean, that's what I would hope was the problem. What about if you create a built-in resource that's using a custom sub-resource? Then the only script ext resource would be the custom sub-resource, hence displaying. What about if you create a built-in resource that's using a custom sub-resource? Create a built-in resource that's using it, then the only script ext resource would be the custom sub-resource, hence displaying the wrong icon. It doesn't happen very often, but I don't use custom resources much, so maybe I'm wrong. If you find a way to fix this without affecting performance and copying code, go ahead. If not, I just leave it. I wait until someone opens an issue about it. There's a chance no one will run into the situation, or if they do, they won't consider it a bug. Could we use class DB API type to detect if a class is built in? Looks like there's no way of getting the actual class of a file unless you parse the script. Yeah, the types I've been working with so far are all built-in ones, which are defined at the top of every resource file. I'll leave the implementation as is for now. Okay. Unload the car, please. Oh, well, my wife needs me to help unload the car, and she's home. And it's almost 5 o'clock anyway, so I probably have to feed dogs. I'm gonna have to hop off, but yeah, thanks for following me along. I just used following. How do you fix that multiple conflicting script types? They're global script classes, so you can't have conflicts. The names have to be unique. Anyway, I'm gonna have to, tell him that it's the wrong order probably, or that he needs to actually evaluate the order. But Anyway, I gotta get going, so thanks for hanging out, everyone. I will see you all later. Maybe, hopefully.